All right, it is 6 o'clock on September the 15th. So we are going to call to order the meeting on the Council of Family Resource Centers. We are going to start with our opening items, which is item 1.02, which is roll call. Turn it over to Rochelle.
All right, Rochelle Murillo for the record. Sherry Lynn Elcano.
Here.
Brenda Costello.
Here.
Rebecca Paris.
Here.
Scott Benton.
I'm present.
Susan Sievert.
I'm here.
And Vanessa Vancor.
Thank you, Rochelle. We do have a quorum, so we will move on to item 2, which is our items for presentation, discussion, and information and/or action. We also have public comments, so any individuals may address the council and the Family Resource Centers concerning any action item listed below. We will start with item 2.01, which is introduction of new members of the Council on Family Resource Centers and our Family Resource Center staff. I am going to turn it back over to Rochelle.
Okay, Rochelle Murillo for the record again. Welcome everyone. We haven't seen you in a long time, so it's great to see most of you in person. We have a couple of people that are joining us virtually as well. So we are doing a hybrid meeting today for the first time in Family Resource Center Council history. As you know, we did have a couple of council members resign last school year, and we had 2 vacant spots open. And we were able to fill one, and she's here today, Rebecca Paris, and I'll let her talk in just a second. She is our new council member. She was appointed through the Board of Trustees a while ago, and we're happy to have her on. So I don't know if she wants to say anything, but I will let her say hello.
Hi.
Hello, Rebecca. Welcome.
Do you want any questions or anything?
Hi, Rebecca. Did you want to say anything about your background or just introduce yourself so that they know who you are, where you come from, and why you wanted to be on the council?
Sure. So my name is Rebecca. I'm actually a parent of a Washington County School District student. I also work for the school district. I substitute as well as I work as a student graduation advocate. I wasn't too familiar with the Family Resources Center until I started getting involved more with the school district. I think it's a great resource. I'm also a social work student, so I'm interning and working in the Family Resources Center as well, so I'm getting to know a lot of it, and everybody I've met so far has been really great. So I really look forward to working with everybody, and I guess that's it.
Okay, so welcome again, Rebecca. We're happy to have you. We also have a new director in our Family Resource Center. We're going to be talking about, I think, further down in the agenda about some new funding that came our way. We were able to hire, we had Katie Morales, and Katie Morales resigned. She had another opportunity that she had to take. So we replaced her with Yesenia Segura, and she goes by Jessie. And so I will let her introduce herself, but we are happy to have her on board.
Hi, thank you, Rochelle. Yes, I'm happy.
Okay.
Rochelle said yes.
Yeah, did you want to say anything else? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, my sound kind of back and forth.
Okay, so we welcome her. I believe we all have heard we have some family advocates that are fairly new. We have Liz. I think you have we introduced her before, Wiley?
I'm not sure. I think we just briefly let you guys know.
Liz and Norma are new to us as well, so they're family advocates at our 3 family resource centers. So, and I don't know if Wiley and Brenda wanted to add anything else. Otherwise, I am done with this portion.
All right,
I don't need to add anybody. Welcome, everybody. Thanks.
You can keep going, Brenda. Oh, Brenda said no. All right. Well, we'll hope that Brenda connects back to us. Item 2.02 is the approval of our minutes from the April 21st meeting of the Council on Family Resource Centers. So this is a possible action item. They were sent to us electronically. Hopefully we all had the chance to review them. So I'm going to open it up to the council if there's any discussion on these minutes. If not, I'll look for a motion.
Susan Siebert, for the record, I'll move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Susan.
Sherry Elcano, I second that.
Thank you, Sherry. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this motion? All right. With that, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? All right, motion carries. Item 2.03 is the 2.03 is the review of meeting dates. This is for information only. I'm going to pass it over to Rochelle. I think it is really just us reviewing the dates that we put out at our last meeting, just to confirm the dates. And I guess I could start the conversation because I was the one who asked for it. We confirmed the dates and we didn't get to vote on it, but I think we sent it back to legal. Legal said these are the dates. This is where we're going to be. Is that my understanding?
Well, I mean, in the past, we've gotten direction that we vote on it, but the direction we got this last time said, no, we don't vote on it. However, we can be flexible, and they are flexible too. So if these particular dates don't work, we can discuss it today, and then we can adjust if we need to.
Okay. So if you guys have any conversation that we need to have around these meeting dates, it looks like it's going to be weird to say the next 3 meetings are in the year 2022. And it looks like there's a typo on our agenda. But I will say that all of our meetings are in 2022. We're not going to go backwards to have a meeting in March.
I had a question. This is Vanessa
Yeah.
Vancourt for the record. The March 9th, do we know if that falls outside of spring break?
Oh, very good
I
question.
meant to look that up ahead of time.
That is a great
Does
question.
anyone know?
I'll look it up while we're talking.
That is a very good question. And then I also note that June 15th is after school is out. So if there is another option, I know that I am not going to be available June 15th. I have an obligation with my daughter that week.
Would you prefer, like, in the school year? with the-
Preferably,
Yeah.
just because I know that sometimes family involvement is, my daughter has a commitment already that week.
Okay, so we could look at rescheduling that June date, and then the spring break looks like, let me make sure I'm on the right. Okay, spring break starts March 12th, goes through March 27th.
Awesome, we missed it by a few days. Good question, Vanessa.
Wait. What time did you say spring break starts? Mine says March 14th. Is that what you said?
I'm looking at the schedule, well, March 14th, I'm just looking at the Saturday, March 12th, because so it's technically, the school day is March 14th through March 25th. I was just looking at the shaded days.
Any other conversation around those days? January 19th is that we're back in session for school, right?
Yeah, I had a conversation. Just
Yeah, go
Sherry
for it.
Elcano for the record. Yeah, I'm sorry because I was looking at the calendar and I was wondering what was the decision on the June 15th. I know you're discussing, you'd rather have it, so should we go ahead and pick a date? Or are we deciding to wait on that?
I don't think it's an action item for us to do that, so we're
Okay.
going to ask Rochelle to look at that, and then
Okay.
she'll send out her decision.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'll try to get it in May for you guys, and then I'll ask you individually if we can't vote on it. I can't send it out to you as a group. I'm not totally sure how to do it, but I'll try to get your feedback.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay. We will close that item and move on to item 2.04, which is presentation and discussion of Family Resource Center's funding status and grant applications, including potential fundraising opportunities. This is also for information and discussion only. And I'll turn it over to Rochelle.
Is this me again? Okay.
I think this is a me and you conversation.
Right. Okay, Rochelle Marie for the record again. So we did want to update you a little bit, and I'm going to have Wiley and Jesse and Brenda pop in and say a couple things too. But as a result of some of the ESSER money, and if you're not familiar with the ESSER money, it's money that's coming down to school districts to support the transition of students back into school, some of the academic gaps that we're seeing in students, some of the needs that they have, including like behavioral health needs. Chronic absenteeism across our nation was high, and our school district was no exception. We had a chronic absenteeism rate of 39%. Right now, currently, we're at 19%, which is about 12,000 kids that are chronically absent. So our students are still missing school for a variety of reasons, some of which you'll hear today and that we're seeing in family resource centers. Our national eviction moratorium was overturned. COVID unemployment benefits have expired. So we're seeing impacts on families and students, and ESSER money is coming in, and so we have ESSER 1, 2, and 3 in the school district. Some of that, and then we have some Title 4A, and so some of that money is covering some of our positions that we currently have. And then the Family Resource Center through the Department of Health and Human Services is getting ARP, or American Recovery, I forget what the P is, protection? Is that what you said? Okay, so those ARP funds will allow us to increase the capacity of our ability to support families. We submitted that today, the scope of work today. It's about, I think it's $129,000 that was non-competitive, and the bulk of it will be for rental assistance, emergency rental assistance, and some other things. We also were able to put in and had some extra funding in Title 4B, which is another federal grant that we have that we've talked to you guys about, but just as a reminder, it's helps us to do some work with service level referrals for families who have received a report through CPS but don't have an open case. But it is expanded also to serve children and youth and families that are impacted by sex trafficking through CSEC and Awaken. We're also supporting families who have been reunified after being in foster care. Some work with families who have open cases, and then some work with families who have service level referrals. So they had some extra funding that Brenda worked on, and some of that has been dedicated to emergency rental assistance as well. So we have some funds that are allowing us to support families in a way that we really haven't been able to in the past, to kind of fill in that need in the community right now, as folks are still trying to grapple with unemployment and all sorts of things. So anything else that you guys want to add? Did I forget?
And I want to correct myself. It's the American Rescue Plan.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you.
So this is Brenda Costello for the record. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. So the grant that was submitted today, it's actually not, like Rochelle said, not a competitive grant. It's an allocation, and we've been calling it the CDC Grant. So it's monies allotted to every state to address so some of the things that we'll be doing through that is, because the Family Resource Center is a trusted place that our families come for information, we'll be helping disseminate information, health information as far as vaccine clinics, where to go. Of course, as Rochelle said, also rental assistance. And we are going to have enough funding in there to hire another 20-hour-a-week person to help channel that money and get us, definitely back on board as far there's rental assistance. We know that the eviction moratorium ended, and so that's where the bulk of that funding is going to go. So it's the CDC health disparities allocation.
Brenda, can you repeat one more time the goal? You cut out right when you were saying the goal.
Oh, so some of the goals are going to be disseminating health information. So for instance, having our families know where to go to get factual information, where to go to get vaccines, where to go to get for testing, and then as far as other health resources, including rental assistance. For instance, our families often won't let anyone know if they've tested positive because if they don't work, they don't get paid. So if we can let them know that please stay home, that your rent will be maybe mostly or partly covered, then hopefully it's better for the healthy community.
Thank you, Brenda, for that information. Is there any questions from the council? Vanessa, go for it.
I have a question, Vanessa Vancourt, for the record. You said that it's disseminating information, so is the information being provided by the CDC? So you're not generating information, just distributing it? Is that what I understood?
The CDC has a great website that we will be getting the information from there. We won't be creating information. We may be using some of theirs and putting it at a grade level appropriate for our families in multiple languages, but we're not going to be creating any health information.
I think she meant, you're cutting out, Brenda, so I think she said we're not creating anything. We will be just using CDC information.
Okay. And because it's not a competitive grant, it's an allocation, is there any reporting that's required from the Family Resource Center? And if so, do you know what they're measuring, I guess?
This is Wiley for the record. I'll go ahead and answer that, Vanessa. So there will be some reporting, but we haven't got any guidance from our state representatives yet on what that will look like or what we'll actually be reporting on. They've just asked us to spend in our proposal, what we plan to use the funds for, but they haven't said anything about what the reporting will look like just yet.
Any other questions from the council on the information we just received? Okay, something that I wanted to talk about under this item was maybe some big fundraising opportunities that we can come up with as a council. And I had a conversation maybe over the summer with Lisa and Rochelle about what we can do as a council to engage with the family resource centers and how we can help in fundraising opportunities. So I wanted to brainstorm with you guys about how we can maybe find a way to fill the funding gap that we may be seeing in the council or in the centers. I know in the past we've had some great conversations about, I think Vanessa has led the charge on what can we do as a council to help. And a lot of the conversation is bus passes and quarters for the laundry and that sort of thing. And so it got me to thinking, how can we do maybe a once a year event that will help so that we're not constantly having that conversation, because I see us wanting to help, right? We want to help and we just don't know how. So I want to open that conversation. I was watching a high school, Damani Ranch High School, I think it was, that did a corral of the principal overnight, raising money, getting him out of the corral. He had to raise so much money to get him out of the corral. And by golly, he raised $10,000 to get out of the corral. He stayed there 24 hours. And I'm like, why can't we do that for the family resource centers? Or something like putting us up on the roof and we have to rappel down the building and raise funds. Like those sorts of things. Like, we look at all these agencies across our community, they brainstorm and they do these once a year events, and it's an ongoing event. So I just wanted So throw that option out there, and then we can present to who we need to present to see what we can do just for our 3 little centers that do so much work in our community, so that they have a pot of money to go to when they need to that's designated for the laundry quarters, the bus passes, and they don't have to really reach into a grant. So I just wanted to open that dialogue to see where you guys were at. I think it would be a unique opportunity for us. It would be something that I don't know.
I'll respond. Sherry Elcano for the record. So I think it's a great idea to have a once-a-year fundraising event. And I'm sure that across the country, there are a lot of organizations that have been in the same position, trying to figure out what works. We could kind of, as homework, just go online. I mean, you Google successful fundraising events, something like that. I know, within you just mentioned a few, and then within our district, just within our county, there are a lot of fundraising events. Some of them are harder to get to for us to do, like some of those big feeds, that kind of thing. But a lot of the sporting events, they do take time and energy to put together, but, like walkathons, walk for the FRC or whatever, however you wanted to do it. But there's so many different ways we could approach it along the lines of your idea, how the animal control does the sit in a cage or whatever overnight kind of thing. It's the same idea as yours. So I would think it'd be kind of fun for us to take it as homework and come back at our next meeting, and everybody would be tasked with bringing their 5 best ideas that they found online that they thought we as a group could actually be successful at, and that would be my proposal.
Go for it, Vanessa.
Vanessa Vanko for the record. Also appreciate, I think all of us are eager and willing and love the staff and the work that is being done, and so I appreciate that we have opportunities to do this. And I want to acknowledge that events are a lot of work, and the last thing we want to do is create more work for a staff that is already working its tail off and doing so much for the community. And so I think our task as a committee is to think of innovative ways. It's fundraising, and it's also brand awareness, and it's elevating just awareness about this amazing staff and what we're doing. So I just want to acknowledge that an event like these keystone events that other organizations have take a great deal of work. And so how might we think about, I think of this through the lens of storytelling because I'm a storyteller. And when I see the reports and the numbers and, even anecdotally knowing that because of the eviction moratorium being reversed and unemployment benefits being taken away from families, the ripple effects of that. And as a storyteller, I think, how can we take data and humanize it and use the FRC as the problem solvers and the heroes in a community that, to localize the issue through the lens that people tend to care about, which is families and children. And so we might think about, and also, the other thing I was thinking of is we don't know what's going to happen with COVID and the variant and other possibilities moving forward. So planning an in-person endeavor may not be fruitful if we, depending on how this pandemic continues to unfold. So I just wanted to put those things out there as everyone was talking. I thought, yes, we are definitely excited and eager. And how might we think about this as an opportunity to raise awareness? And is this an opportunity to capitalize on a community that is likely to be more giving around the holiday season? Or do we think of the off season when folks are less inclined to give, where there is maybe greater need? So I'm just posing questions and considerations. And also my final thought was community partnerships. Looking at events that partner with existing communities. The Family Resource Center already has a network of allies and partners with whom you're doing business. But just thinking about, when coffee shops have done awareness campaigns where a percentage of proceeds goes to a nonprofit. I know the Realtors Association adopts a nonprofit every month for different organizations. So I think, you know, I think my area where I start to feel a little trepidation is like, yes, let's be super ambitious and dream big and come up with crazy ideas, and also scale it so that it doesn't fall to the staff and we can be leaders on it.
And I think that's where my vision was when I brought forth the idea, is that it would be the council's responsibility. It would not be the staff's responsibility, because they do such yeoman's work. We don't want them to have to plan this fundraiser every year. It would be something that the council can take charge on, and we lead the charge, and it's an ongoing effort that at the end of the day or the end of the year, we feel like we have done our part as the council, rather than just meeting 4 times a year and saying, yes, great job, you guys did great. We contributed to that greatness as well. So that they feel like, yes, we're the council that leads and helps guide them, but really we're leading them with action items that are actionable, and this could be one big action item for them. And that's what I'm hearing from you guys, is that you want something that, rather than just sitting and reading their numbers to us and the great things that they're doing, I think you want to provide some greatness to them too.
Yeah.
As a council.
Having just gone through the open meeting law training, I also know that there are some nuances with what our communication, what we're allowed outside of these meetings in terms of being collegial and communicating, and I just want to put that on the table as well, because I know there are some boundaries around what we can do as a group, or not as a group rather. So just something I think that's where we would need some guidance, is how do we take this enthusiasm but not violate any open meeting laws, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that comment, but all the planning would have to be right here at this dais, in this forum. And then with anything, like if we decide this is going to happen on May 20th, we publicly notice that we're going to all be together, or potentially be together. There may be a potential quorum on May 20th, for an example. Having served on other school district bodies, we plan the safety forum on a commission that I sit on, and all the planning happens here. So I think it would be similar to that.
I appreciate the idea of using these meetings, not just for a check-in with the team, but to do plan.
Yeah. And I think that gives those that are working in the Family Resource Center, if they choose to be a part of the planning process, they can come and be a part of the process as well. I think in that body, the public comment, they have the option to do that.
I would like to hear from our Family Resource staff, just to ask, like, how does this initially sit? Like, where do you feel it in your body when you hear us talking about these big ideas? Like, is it something that is exciting? You know, are there models you've looked to where you think, oh, wouldn't that be great? Or is everything inside of you saying, no, thank you, we'll try something else? I just want to kind of get a temperature check of how does this feel or sound, or where is your brain going as we talk about this?
I'll start it off, because I just, hearing you guys talk about this, I know that, I don't know if some of you were here when we, Lisa with Sparks partnered with the Carpenters Union and got them to do a lot of work to replace a roof. So if not maybe doing fundraisers, but working with different agencies and construction companies to maybe replace a roof or some windows, because I think a lot of times we don't, people don't think about those little things that really affect a family and a student's life. So maybe partnering with some different agencies, like in that aspect, maybe we could find some families that need certain services done, and then partner with other agencies or other companies, and see what we could do there. So that's, but I'm super excited. I know that we would love to help some of our families, and sometimes there's just not a resource out there that we can find in order to get them what they need. And so we're always trying to piece things together, trying to find how we can find a way to get them the money, or try to funnel some kind of resource to them so that they can get what they need. So I think that would be awesome if we were able to do that. And then I'll turn it over to Jesse and Brenda if they have anything to add.
And before we do that, I think initially in my conversation with you, Rochelle, with Lisa, it was maybe possibly bringing some of those partners together and piecing things together like that. Like bringing our community partners at NV Energy and the Carpenters, and like maybe they have other people that they know that want to be a part of this. And we're isolating NV Energy and the Carpenters and the news outlet, and really they can come together and ask people that we don't know want to give. So it's really a big ask on one big day, was my idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. We'll see what Brenda has to say, but I am excited about it. The funding that we have now is not ongoing sustainable funding. It's one time, maybe 2 years, so it's gone come 2023. So we will lose staff if we're not able to sustain some of the funding for the staff. So I'm excited to hear some of this and other ideas around fundraising, because we do need to explore sustainable means of funding for staff so we don't lose them, because we do need them.
And Brenda, is that you typing in the chat there?
Yeah, I was going to go ahead and read it for you guys. So
Perfect,
Brenda said in the
thank
chat, I love the idea of a passive fundraiser like partnering with Yogurt Beach or Coffee Bar for a portion of the proceeds. If we are put on a roof in a corral, we may languish there forever.
Well, geez, Brenda, there's no faith in our friends. I would beg my mom to come pay for me to get out.
So this is just Ania for the record. I do agree with all the ideas. I think it's great to start this type of conversation. Just going about the logistics. About in the past, I was part of a lot of events such as these, where we will get some of the proceeds. I think there's a lot behind that. How to set it up, how to I just want ideas and
Jesse, if you could type some of that in the chat, that would be great, because you cut out and I don't know. I think I'm losing my hearing,
Okay.
but I didn't hear most of what you said.
okay, I will type it in.
And I think it's fair for you guys to know, I thought I should get creative with some of the fundraising, because right now I know with the grants, they're allocated dollars and they can only go to certain places. And really, I wanted some dollars that were unallocated, so that when Brenda had a family of 7 that needed to do laundry, that she can go pull $20 from this pot of money to get them to do their laundry. And that's just, I mean, that's what I hear constantly, is that's the need, is these small things, $5 for Walmart gift cards to go get a gallon of milk. Those sorts of things that aren't allocated in a grant is the needs on an everyday basis in the centers, is what I'm seeing these fundraising dollars to go to. Not necessarily rental assistance or those big dollar items, more so the everyday walk in the door, I just need milk for my daughter to have cereal tomorrow morning.
Right. I know I should know this, but I'm going to ask it anyway and just look stupid. Is the FRC nonprofit, right? Is it considered a nonprofit organization?
It's not considered a nonprofit. We're under the school district, so we're a public agency.
So something like the Amazon nonprofit, you know how you can set up somebody to receive a certain percentage of everything you spend on Amazon? We can't do that with FRC.
We can do it through Ed Alliance. We do have Ed Alliance that's a nonprofit for the school district. We could work with Kendall and Skip and talk to her about doing that. So there are ways around it, but family resource centers in Nevada, most of them are nonprofits, but because we're under the school district, we're not. We're not.
I'm just going to read what some of the people said in the chat. Brenda said she would support any fundraising and appreciates everyone on the board. And then Jesse said we would just have to discuss on how these conversations, the logistics on how these conversations will get started would need to be discussed, but she's very much on board. And it looks like Brenda wanted to remind everybody that we can no longer purchase gift cards. So under the Department of Education, they came out and said that the federal grant money that we were receiving can no longer be spent on gift cards of any kind. So We are trying to utilize some of our other discretional funding that doesn't have any restrictions on them to purchase some of those. So we will still have some, but we just won't be able to use a lot of the money that we have in the past to purchase gift cards to continue doing so. So we'll just have a much shorter supply.
And just to clarify, that's for our federal grants. Most of our grants are federal or they're funneled through state agencies, so it affects all of our like big grants. But if we had any gifts and donations or any foundation money, those are unrestricted funds, but the federal grants, we can't buy gift cards any longer. And we used to be able to do that through Title 4B, I think, and we no longer can.
But Sherry Alcano, bus passes are not considered gift cards, yeah. But you're saying that you can't use your federal grant monies, but somebody else who's donating money to you, they could donate it in gift cards to you.
They could do that, or we do have a gifts and donations account that's unrestricted, so we have access to that. And so if somebody decided to give us $100, that would go in the gifts and donations account, and that's unrestricted, unless they say we want you to only use this for bus passes. Then we allocate that money just for bus passes. So it depends on what the person is that's donating, what their intent is.
I have one more question, Sherry Alcano. So I don't know, we just kind of toss ideas out, right? But about GoFundMe, is that something that you can do for the FRC? Can you set up a GoFundMe account? But you'd have to clearly express your goal and all that, and then see if people, I don't know, it's just an idea.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
So I'll do some research. I don't know what the stance is for the school district to do a GoFundMe. So I would have to do some more research, but I can get back to you about it.
Okay.
Just to add, Brenda in the chat said that we do have the Facebook page, and she said we could activate a donate button if we wanted to have like a virtual fundraiser. Again, I don't know if we'd have to clear that to make sure that that's all okay, but we do have the option to be able to do that if we are given the green light to do that.
I will add with Facebook, it takes longer to get the funds, unfortunately. So I think if we were fundraising for something that wasn't time sensitive, that would be a good option. And GoFundMe would be better for something more immediate.
Maybe you have the answer, Rochelle, on the National Give Back Day or National Big Give Day. Does the school district participate in that, or does the FRC participate in that individually?
The Family Resource Center does not, and I don't know that the school district is. I'm not aware of them doing that.
Okay.
But I could do research on that too.
Okay. And again, I know I throw myself out there. If you want me to have conversations with the grants department or whoever, I will gladly. I don't mind asking those questions to them.
Thank you very much.
Any other discussions under this item? I think we've had some great conversation. Yes.
I was just going to say that I think because the work has to happen on the committee, I don't know how this works, but can we request for it to be on the agenda? And, to your point, we research, but I think part of the research too is I really like the idea of identifying big needs. So if it's not a fundraiser per se or a virtual one, but we know that there's a family in need of X, Y, and Z, and that is brought to the next meeting, and we've also done our research. That might be a good use of time to connect those dots to say, okay, there's a family who needs a roof, and given the timeline, we could do this in the next, few months, given how often we also meet, which restricts the work we're able to do. How does that work for next steps? I know we're not taking action on this, we're just discussing it. Can we request this information to be brought back from the staff as far as big needs?
So my answer, and Rochelle, correct me if I'm wrong, is I would request that you go through Lisa to do that, as she's the one who prepares the agenda. She sends it to me, and then I kind of say, yes, that's a great agenda, and no, let's not talk about that. I've never shot anything down, for the record. Everything that she brings to me, I say, yes, let's talk about it. But then she sends it off to Rochelle and legal, so that legal approves all of our agendas. And And I think that's the proper channel, just so that there's no quorum being met through email. Lisa's the go-to, and then I think that's the proper channel to go.
We might have to vote on an action to move forward too. I wish we would have made this an action item so we could vote on it today.
I don't think we can because it's not an action item.
It's not an action item, so we can't, but we might have to in the future.
Yes.
Vote on it if you want to move forward with that idea.
So because it's only information and discussion, I can request that it's an action item moving forward, that it's on our agenda, I think maybe as a standing item until we decide what we're going to do. But moving forward, we can ask Lisa to submit it as an action item so that if there is an action that we need to take, we can. But unfortunately, today we cannot. It was just for discussion.
So, Sherry Alcano. All right, so if it's an action item, next meeting, we have another discussion. In the meantime, maybe we've done our little homework thing. So at the point that we kind of decide on a fundraiser idea, and if it would need more discussion and we didn't want to wait 3 months, can we meet, does the FRC have the ability to create an extra meeting? Because we'd all have to be present, right? So what if we had one extra meeting just for the fundraiser event or something like that? I don't know. I'm just shooting from the hip here.
I'm not totally sure. I'm sorry. I feel like I don't have answers today. But let me check in with board services and see if that is something, if we feel like if it's a pressing need for us to meet before, what are we supposed, January 19th. Let me see if we are able to create another meeting. Because we'd have to follow the same procedure because it's a quorum, and so it would be subject to open meeting law. So let me check with them and then I'll get back to you.
Okay, and I think though we'd have to meet in the next meeting is January, and in
Yes.
January meeting would be when we would have on an action item where we actually discuss some of our ideas. So it would be the meeting after the January, between the January and April.
For that, we could put on the next January agenda that if you wanted to do another meeting, you guys could vote on that and we could do another meeting.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to set it up now for us. I'm trying to have us think about it, how we would do that.
Okay,
so that,
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I can shoot from the hip and say, as long as we publicly notice it and there's 21 days, we can call a meeting at the discretion of the chair, is how I understand most meetings can happen.
Okay, so that would be, again, after
Am I
the
right?
January meeting, this would be on the agenda, we'd have the discussion, and then you're saying then we could ask for an additional meeting to further discuss if we,
Correct.
whatever, okay,
But we're going to let Rochelle research it and then,
yeah. So that'll all come to fruition in the January meeting. Okay,
or, I'll just say that Rochelle can email. I cannot email, Vanessa cannot email, Rochelle or Lisa can email us and let us know the decision. And then
oh, okay,
I can take action from there,
okay.
if that is the decision that the chair can take action. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, that's fair. And I'm learning stuff. We haven't never had to do an additional meeting, so I wasn't totally sure how to, yeah.
I just know that I have been able to cancel meetings and call meetings as a chair of another committee for the school district. So should that be the same bylaws or the same, I think all boards or commissions of the school district are the same. They follow the same criteria. All right, any other discussion? Good job. Thank you for some great discussion on that. And we will move on to my favorite item of all of these meetings, and that's 2.05, the presentation and discussion of the Family Resource Center's year-to-date data and outreach events, including future outreach or community outreach events and volunteer opportunities. I'm going to toss this over to Wiley because he doesn't like to talk much.
Okay, I'll start off with some of our numbers served. Just give me a quick second here while I pull it up for everybody that's on the Zoom.
And I meant no harm by that comment, Wiley. I know that you like to talk because
Sometimes I get nervous, man. We'll scare you up here. let's see. I think it's just doing, I just pull it up. Oh, there it goes. Can you guys see that on Teams? No. John, am I doing this right? Stop sharing? And then you got to reshare? Okay. All right, we will start with the numbers served for all of last year. So this goes from, you guys can see on here, this goes from 7/1 to 9/30, 10/1 to 12/31, 2020, and then it starts from January 1st, 21 and goes to 6/30/21. So that's our fiscal year for last year, and you can kind of see all the totals. This is a running total that we did for you guys last year, so you guys saw a lot of this throughout the year. This one just has our year-to-date totals there at the end, so you could take a look. Just some notable ones. The 1609 families that we served last year, so I think that's up quite a little bit. I think 14 or 1500 is what we had the year previous, and now we're up to about 1609. Utility assistance, looking on here, is one of our really big ones. We do help a lot of families with utility assistance through our SAFE program, which is the one-time emergency assistance that they receive. We saw a lot of those throughout COVID. And then our EAP applications through the state of Nevada, they did get quite a bit of funding for helping families with their utility bills. And then you guys can go through, we've been helping a lot of families with emergency housing assistance. So you see those numbers kind of tick up at the end there. And then food and nutrition, we really rallied around our school district staff, and a lot of our FRC staff helped out a lot during COVID to provide food and food assistance to families. So you can see that one is pretty high there. And then lots of wellness. This includes kind of everything that we do as a lot of direct service through the Family Resource Centers with our hygiene kits, our gift cards, clothing vouchers. A lot of stuff is included in there, so you could see that one is also one of our high ones as well. And if anybody has any questions on the year-to-date data from last year, that's some of the most current one. And then I also have one that's the numbers served through this fiscal year, which starts July 1 and goes through 8/31, so from July to August, the end of August. And if Brenda or Jesse have anything that they want to add as well.
Wiley, just on this, since the moratorium eviction has been lifted and the pandemic unemployment benefits have expired, have you seen any increases in the centers? Maybe Jesse and Brenda can add to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys just pulled up this number served from our fiscal year 21-22, I mean, we are, if you see our previous year from July to the end of September, we were only at 25 applications submitted for like our Medicaid, our TANF, our SNAP applications. Last year during that time was only 25 applications, and now we're up to 95 applications that we've submitted. So quite a bit of uptick there. Same with our utility assistance. You can see it's kind of about on par with last year's, but still there's another uptick in that one as well. Still lots of the biggest need I think right now of what we're seeing a lot of is our SAFE, our one-time utility assistance, and then referring them out to EAP and other programs for the utility assistance. So, and if you can kind of see on there, the food and nutrition is up. Most of our numbers are up. We do have the additional staff, so we were able to hire Katie, and then when she resigned, we were able to hire Jesse. So having Jesse and then the additional 2 advocates, Norma and Liz, having them being able to kind of bring them on board quickly and being able to meet the need of our clients. We're just seeing a lot of stuff uptick and being able to service more clients than we were before. So, and then Jesse or Brenda, if they have anything.
Yes, this is Jesse for the record. I I'm looking at Brenda's notes. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yes.
I believe Brenda is just pointing out the emergency utility assistance was not included. The state program served 958 families, and we actually went over budget with Nevada Energy, and they gave us another county that they did have not used. So just wanted to point that out there because he's been sending stats.
I don't know if you heard everything that she said, but I think what she was saying is they have the FRCs have a certain amount of money that NV Energy gives them for power assistance, and they actually went over budget significantly in responding to paying for bills. So Brenda's the expert at that because she has the partnerships, the direct connections with NV Energy, but not that they were able to cover it. It's just that I think Washoe County utilized more of that funding than any other county in Nevada.
In that same notion, Wiley, on the FY 2021, I noticed that employment was on here, and then in FY 21-22, employment is not on here. Is that just something that may have dropped off on accident, or is that no longer something that we're tracking?
No, I apologize. That is something we still track. It looks like I left it off on the new one that I made. So I apologize. I will add that in, and we'll have numbers, and we'll cover that at our next meeting.
Awesome. And while we're on employment, because employment is a pressing issue for a lot of us, what does employment look like? Like, what services do we offer inside the Family Resource Centers? Do we refer them to temp to hire programs? Do we refer them to on-site hiring employers? What does that look like?
All of the above. We do work with different staffing agencies. So we have some temp agencies and some a list of all the places that will do it. We work with job recruiters. So FedEx sends us a lot. Different places will come by and tell us that they're hiring and give us a flyer. So we post those outside our offices, and we let our clients know anytime there's any communicated from other agencies that are hiring. And then we also work with Community Services Agency with their workforce development program. So we refer a lot of families to them. Brenda just put in the chat that we also refer to Job Connect, CSA, and Opportunity Alliance. So we do work with a lot of our partner agencies to work with them, and then we also will try to work with them as well, see what we can do to trying to get them established somewhere and get them in. So if we hear about any opportunities, we'll always let them know and try to help them with that piece.
Awesome.
I have a
Yes,
question. Vanessa Vancourt for the record. Looking at the numbers served for the fiscal year 20 to 21 and the applications submitted, there were 200 for that time year, which is a lot of people in need. And when you compare it to the size of the district, however, it's such a tiny percentage. So I know in the prior agenda item, we talked about the importance for awareness in the community from a fundraising component, but then we've talked about internal awareness. How do families learn about the FRC? So is that an area, in thinking about where to direct energy? And we've also talked about this because there's also the risk of overworking staff who's already overworked. How do families find out about you? I know these numbers are up already given what you're seeing just in these last 2 months, but and it'll likely trend higher for this next year. But again, as I'm thinking about 200 applications against the thousands of people who exist in the district, I know that there's still a lot of people not being served.
So with our applications submitted, these are the ones that we're doing direct service through our resource center. So we're actually doing the application and submitting them through our resource center. We work with Food Bank of Northern Nevada. We have the trusted partners on site with us that do a lot of our SNAP applications, Medicaid applications. They do them together. So that doesn't include some of the ones that we're referring out to the people that are our partner agency and the staff that they have co-located at our sites. So we do that number would be a little bit higher if we tracked that, but we don't track some of those numbers because they track it on their own. So I can get you some of that information. I'm sure we could share that if you'd like. But the biggest thing, and I know I've kind of explained and kind of told you guys about this, I apologize I haven't added this to the agenda, is we did start a call recording and tracking a database that we utilize called CallRail.
It is on the next
item.
agenda.
Oh,
Don't
well,
you worry.
then
You'll
I
get
can
your
I can
chance. Don't worry.
I can kind of discuss more about CallRail on the next item, so you guys can get a little bit more information about how we're tracking where families are getting our information and how we're servicing them through that as well.
I'll add to that generally where they get their referrals though are school counselors, school social workers, we have safe school professionals, administrators sometimes. So the bulk of the referrals are probably from the school district, and when Wiley explains it, that will give us a better sense of how many. But we also get referrals from other community agencies, and then I'm spacing. Human Services Agency, Washoe County Human Services Agency sends us quite a few referrals as well.
Thank you. And the applications submitted are just the ones that are initiated and completed with the FRC. The referrals are separate, and sometimes that's not included. So that if you're only looking at applications submitted, it's not a correct view. It would be better to look at families and children and individuals served. Okay. Thank you.
And just to add to that, I mean, if you look down at our referrals, the 1,700 that we had about, a lot of those are the ones that we're referring out, and they're doing applications through. I mean, not only is it the Food Bank of Northern Nevada that's doing some of our SNAP applications. CSA has some navigators as well that will do different programs. So we do refer out a lot, and so some of those referrals, they are getting those applications submitted through them. So you might see. That's why some of the numbers aren't reflected in the applications that we're actually submitting.
Riley, will you walk me through what really does application submitted mean? Because I'm looking down below, it says utility assistance and EAP application. So what really does what are those applications look like?
So our application submitted would be when a family comes in and they need SNAP or Medicaid, and we actually work with them to get the entire application submitted into the portal. We collect all their documentation, scan it, and upload it, and actually submit it off to its respective agency where it needs to go. So if we have time, all of our advocates are certified to do the SNAP applications and submit them. Hopefully, we just did a training with SNAP so that we can actually be trusted partners and do the SNAP application along with the interview. So previous to that, we did have some struggles with, we would do the application, and some of our families would, they usually get a phone call to do a SNAP interview to make sure that their information is all correct, and then they would be approved after that. But a lot of families would miss the phone call or wouldn't be able to call back, and so our approval rate was kind of suffering at that end. So we tried to work with them to figure out the way we could to help that, and they went ahead and brought us on as trusted partners, and we did the training a couple months ago. So we are able to do the entire SNAP application, but it won't happen until I think in January we're able to start doing those. We have to record our conversations. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So we sometimes don't spend all of that. We don't have the time to spend on the application process start to finish. When we do have the time and the ability to do it, we can do that. So some of our applications submitted are from when we actually start the application and we submit it ourselves. Some of them are the SNAP recertifications. So if a family comes in and says, hey, I need to recertify for my SNAP application, we are able to do those, and we count those as an application that we've submitted. Same with Medicaid. We were able to do those Medicaid applications. And then any other applications that, like we can do TANF, we do some different applications that we can, our staff are trained to do. Sometimes we don't do all of them just because some of them are pretty lengthy, but we try to get them. And that's why I was saying a lot of times we refer out to our trusted partners like Food Bank, who has the time and ability to schedule and do those applications start to finish. So. If that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you. And then I have another question, and it's more of what are your thoughts on the numbers and the correlation to the quarters? I noticed that the middle two quarters, which are typically the holidays, what are your thoughts on why those numbers are higher than those that are on the first and last quarter? Is it typically just because of the holidays, or what do you think those or is it just, I don't know?
I'm not 100% sure. I never really know, kind of some of the reasons. Maybe we're trying to get our surveys back up and running, and we had some ideas. We talked about that today, about doing a QR code and trying to get some feedback from our families about what they're experiencing and what they're seeing. So hopefully we could track some of that data and try to get back to you and let you know kind of exactly what they're feeling. I can only guess, but my guess would be similar to what you're thinking. Just it's colder, so power bills go up. People are trying to find alternative ways to heat their home, if it's oil or gas, different ways. So we do have a lot of EAP applications in the wintertime. Those do go up. So as you see, some of the utility assistance, like then those EAP applications are going up during those winter months because a lot of families are seeking. EAP will help with, if you have oil heat, if you use kerosene, cords of wood, just depending on how you heat your home, they can work with families to get them what they need. So you see a lot of that, and then just the holiday season, a lot more families are struggling with the holidays and trying to make ends meet. So I think a lot of times they reach out a little bit more during those months to try to get some assistance, but I'm not 100% sure why, as to what the reasons are.
Now I know why you're nervous, because I put you on the spot. My last question for you, and I promise I'll be done. The numbers that you reflect here, are they unique individuals and families, or are they sometimes like in quarter one, I present with my family and then I present in quarter four and they're reflected that way, or is it I can come in and I can be reflected in all four quarters?
So the data you're looking at right now is just new clients. So that means that they've come in at least one time during this fiscal year. That doesn't mean, so they're not duplicated. So a lot of these families, of the 1609 that we saw last year, they could have come in 5, 6 times. They could have come in once, twice. They could kind of across the board. So these are all new clients. None of this is duplicated. These are just the families that we've served over the year. So I could get you duplicated numbers and show how many times that, the total number of families and how many times we've served them. But this data right here is just the raw data of new families that have come in and access services for the fiscal year.
So this truly is not the services provided. You probably have provided a lot more services, maybe doubled or tripled these numbers of services provided to the county.
You could. Yes. When we look at it, this one family, they might have came in for application assistance, and then a lot of it is, a family could have been counted in that first quarter there in July, and then got an application submitted then, and then they got education or food and nutrition later in the quarter. But a lot of this is just overall data. So. Yeah, everything here is non-duplicated. There should be, and a lot of our stuff is like our referrals. Sometimes we count if we give them 10 or 12 referrals as only one referral. We're not going to individualize every single referral that we give them. So a lot of these referrals that you see here is kind of a small number because, if we hand them a housing resource guide or a food bank list and there's 30 or 40 referrals on there and they end up calling all of those, we don't track all of that data. But so hopefully that answers your question.
Yes. It just opens my
Hi,
eyes.
Wiley.
Oh, hello?
Can you have Wiley read some of my chat? I'm sorry, I've been blowing up the chat.
No, is that Brenda?
Yeah. So Brenda has said some FRC staff also work closely with several social media groups such as Urgent Need Northern Nevada and Mutual Aid Reno Sparks. And I monitor the Food Bank of Northern Nevada Facebook page and a messenger chat. She said definitely Human Services Agency and CPS. And then she said for Scott. I would estimate that any application usually entails 3 or possibly 4 visits to the office. Rarely, if ever, are the applications completed in one sitting. That's true. A lot of times they have to, if we don't have the most current documents, we have to have them come back or resubmit some of that stuff that we need for our applications. She said, even though we are a year-round, our FRC numbers generally follow the school calendar year, lower in the summer. And these are unduplicated numbers, as I stated, and then our carryover numbers are usually triple our unduplicated numbers. So again, they're, like she said, a lot of families are coming back to provide us documents or calling us back for additional resources, and so a lot of these numbers would be much higher if we had duplication in there.
Okay. Wow. I think that's all I can say as well. Any other conversation before we move on to the events and collaborations?
Thank you for all of that.
Yes, thank you. Are we going to put Jesse on the spot to do this item since Brenda kind of dropped
Yes,
off?
I'm hoping.
All right,
hoping you
Jesse,
guys
it's all
can hear
yours.
me. Yes, this is just for the record, and I'm hoping you can hear me. Otherwise, I can start typing just like Brenda. Anyway, so we've been very busy, as you've heard so far. The events and collaborations all the way from May 2021 till present. We've done several events that include, as you can see in the list, but we have had the mobile harvest at Sun Valley, as you see, the weekly food distribution also at Sun Valley and Spark. As we have spoken before, we've had the SNAP outreach. Are you guys hearing me well so far?
Yes, thank you.
Brenda, can you mute yourself, please?
Yeah, we're hearing some back noise.
So the ongoing collaboration with Resilience Ambassadors, the JTNN Coalition meetings, the Project Homeless Connects. I really, as you can see a lot of events. I want to really focus on the side that I've been more involved recently since I got hired, is the outreach events that include the back to school nights. I've been a part of most of them with, not with Matthews, but I've been at Mitchell, at Stead Elementary. I've done Silver Lake Elementary, Sepulveda Elementary, and North Valleys High School. Those were done virtually due to the situation we're in now with the pandemic. A lot of students were excluded, so the schools had to cancel their in-person open houses, so they were done virtually. So I'm trying really hard, all together as a team, we're trying really hard to bring back our North Valleys families, to let them know that we're still here to help them, that we used to have this center located at O'Brien, and now that one was closed, and now we have it at Desert Skies Middle School. And even though it's within the North Valleys area, that's located in Sun Valley. So for our families in the main North Valleys area, it's kind of hard to get all the way up there. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Desert Skies Middle School is located, but it's pretty up there in the hills. So we're trying to go back to where we were at O'Brien. We have started conversations in regards to planning and trying to perhaps go back there. And with that said, we're continuing to do more outreach events, and there are continuous discussions. We've met with the principal at O'Brien Middle School. We have also met with the principal at Stead Elementary, and there have been very positive discussions, and they're very much on board. The only issue is that they're both overcrowded, so we don't really have a space that I can pretty much tell the families that they can find us there. So, but we're not giving up. We're very excited to get more ideas and to also hear you guys' ideas and continue on with more discussions.
Well, thank you, Jesse, for that. I am going to put you on the spot and ask you a question.
Sure.
Which one of these events has been your favorite event?
I'm a very much people person. I love being out there in the community. North Valleys, I also live there. I've been here for over 15 years in the North Valleys. I know a lot of our communities. I like going everywhere and reaching out and getting to know families and making sure that they know we're here. And even though we're very limited in funding, we all have the same purpose. Why we're in this department is to help our families all for the same for our students. Are you guys able to hear me well? It's like
Yes,
cutting
thank you.
off on.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
I have a question as well.
Go for it.
Hi, this is Sherry Alcano again. Yeah, I was wondering, with your back-to-school nights, and you said you had to, this year, most of them had to be via Zoom rather than in person. And I was wondering
Yeah.
what your Zoom attendance was in comparison to in-person attendance.
Well, those were very different because the schools, the staff started the virtual meetings before they each went on individually to meet with their families. So I pretty much was able to share what we do with the school staff, such as the principal, the social workers, the counselors, the teachers, and sending them the digital flyers and letting them know what we do and the services that we provide and the referrals we provide. So that was very not much in touch with the families itself.
Okay.
Just pretty much relying on the school staff to pass that information. And they've been very great. They always are very supportive and very glad that we are here. The ones that were done in person were amazing. We had a lot of families come in. Of course, we had a lot of incentives set up at the table, free incentives to come to our table so they can hear us talk. And, well, just to tell you, I like to talk. So if you want to keep putting me on the spot, it's okay.
Nice.
Jesse, I know you said that you had some conversation with the principal at O'Brien, and I'm going to shout out to that principal. I like Melinda a lot.
Yes.
And I know Brenda has some history in her conversations when Desert Skies was being built and having some conversations about the importance of the FRC in that community. And Susan was really instrumental in that as well. But in your conversations with the principal at O'Brien, has there been a conversation around an FRC being in the new layout of O'Brien?
Yes. Actually, before our conversations, she expressed that she was planning to have one on her own without even having the family resource centers involved, because she didn't know how it worked. So we introduced ourselves and we let her know who we are and what we do, and that if she was interested for us to participate, and she seemed to be on board, very excited as well. She did mention a lot about the layout of Desert Skies Middle School, and she was very excited and positive to continue working with us. Just now, but that any more of the conversations wouldn't happen until we're closer to August 2022, when the new building that they're building now is done being built. So in the meantime, she did express that she understands that her families do need the help, but she just has no room right now because they're overcrowded. Yeah.
And I'll say I believe when we talked to the Stead Elementary School too, principal, she said they had some rezoning to have more students that came, I think, from Silver Lake, and Miss Baker, who is at O'Brien, took their 6th grade class early.
Yep.
So they have like a whole 6th grade group at O'Brien early that filled up their school, and then Stead is really full too with their students. So it's packed out there right now.
Yes. There's a lot of construction happening, a lot of new homes being built. It's just gonna keep on growing. But I'm still positive. That whole staff, the whole team is still positive. I'm willing to go out there after school pickup time, and Brenda has volunteered to join me into my madness and just follow parents and let them know, hey, we're out here in the North Valleys, and just till we find a place where we can meet with them closer to O'Brien until we have a place there.
Yeah, I think most of us were here. We understand the need. We understand the hardship to get to Desert Skies. I'm going to shout out to Susan. Getting a bus up to Desert Skies was hard all in itself to get some of our families up there, and she did it.
That's made a big difference.
Yes. So I understand, I mean, families not wanting to travel to Desert Skies to get to the FRC, and you willing to go out to O'Brien and to that community is really needed, and I thank you for doing that. It's really something that those families out there really need. So thank you
Yes.
for that.
No problem. More than happy.
Is Brenda typing feverishly into the chat? No, not yet? Okay.
Not yet.
Is there any other discussion on item 2.06? Or 2.05, I'm sorry.
I had one thing, I
Yes.
think this would be the time to ask, since it includes volunteer opportunities. Vanessa Vancourt for the record. Our next meeting isn't until after the holidays, so I would just like to ask again if there is opportunity to sponsor families. And last season, was it last season? Yes, where you put together that list and people could sign up. And we got friends to show up and get presents and wrap them and deliver them. Can we do something like that again? Is there a different need to capitalize, for lack of a much better word, on people's generous spirit in this season? What can we do for the holidays?
It looks like Brenda might be typing.
It says, we loved doing the virtual angel tree. Can we do that again?
Yeah, yes, we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that. We also have the Big Reno Coat Drive that partnered with us. That's helping us to gather coats and distribute. They donated 2,000 coats to our students last year.
Wow.
Sometimes we need help sorting
Yes.
those coats to get them to wherever they need to be going. And then both Brenda and Lisa work with LDS churches. They pull together holiday boxes and Catholic charities. And those usually happen in November and December. And then Wiley, do you do it as Wiley does too? But do you do LDS also? Okay, so then there's 3.
Okay.
And sometimes they need some help. Sometimes they don't because their missionaries come and help distribute, but sometimes they need help with that. Or like we tried last year, tried to partner with the coats and give out coats and the food boxes at the same time. So
Yeah, please use us for sorting.
Makes sense.
A virtual angel tree again would be great. Let's make it bigger if possible. I think I had friends who wanted to help and the spots were taken, so I think that's a good problem to have. And I think, to our earlier discussion, that's a nice way for us to use our networks. And again, people are feeling quite generous that time of year, so let's, let's engage with them. Thank you. That's exciting.
Just as a note, Brenda said that we usually provide at least 650 food boxes for the holidays to the LDS and Catholic charities. So
They provide them to or from?
we get about 650 from them. So they their organizations get the boxes together and then donate them to us, and then we get them out to families.
Awesome. All right, any other discussion under item 2.05? Rebecca, you're very quiet. Are you sure you don't want to say anything?
I'm just kind of listening right now. To
I'm just
everything since I'm
putting you on the spot too.
everything.
All right, we will move on to item 2.06, which is discussion of the current and future Family Resource Center's publicity to inform the community of services provided, including the use of CallRail business communication platform and updates to Family Resource Center's flyers. This is for information and discussion only. I'm going to toss it back over to Wiley.
Okay, so as I was kind of explaining earlier, we did, Katie was actually the one that kind of piloted it and got us on board with it. It's an application called CallRail that allows us to track where calls are coming from, and the ability to text our clients, track each advocate and director has their own numbers, so we are able to work with clients directly via each our own number. And then we have numbers set up for, we have a main number that's kind of like any other business that you would call. And It says, thanks for calling the Family Resource Center, and then they have options to select which center that they would like to speak with. So 1 for Central, 2 for Sparks, and 3 for Sun Valley. So it's a little bit better of a call flow that they have the ability to call, and then they have the ability to press the 0, which calls all the centers. So if one center's not in the office, or if they're not answering, then they're able to kind of reach somebody to get access to our services. So when they do call those numbers, so we have a number designated for our flyers and our marketing that goes out, and then we can track if they're getting that number and calling us in from there. We also have a safe FRC or safe number, so we can track if they're actually coming from referred by NV Energy. And I believe, Brenda, correct me if I'm wrong, soon they are working with NV Energy to have our number on the bills. So when families are past due on their bill, our number will be on there for them to call to see if they qualify for the assistance. So hopefully we'll have some more calls coming through from there. And then we have a SNAP outreach number that we put on all of our SNAP information and all of our SNAP flyers so that they can call in for that one. And again, when we do the applications for those calls need to be recorded. So we do have the ability to record those calls for those purposes. So CallRail is an awesome resource for us. It's really allowing us to see centers and seeing how busy phone calls, the amount of phone calls that are coming in on any given day. We can track over the month, over the year, so we can really see which centers, kind of, Scott, to some of your points of when these calls are coming in and what times are busier. Is a Tuesday busier than a Friday, or a Friday's busier than a Monday? So we're able to kind of track a lot of that data and run some reports and be able to kind of see where the need is, and then be able to reinforce and try to help that out. So if Sun Valley's really busy, certain days we're able to allocate some of our staffing or our resources to them to help support them if they need it. And then let's see. It's something that we're still kind of working. It's something new that we're trying to put together. So some of it is a little new. We're trying to figure out all the kinks, but I'm hoping to have some data for you guys. I know I've said that at the last couple of meetings, but I'm hoping to have some data around our CallRail system and tracking some of the numbers so you guys can see how many calls we're fielding, where they're going, and seeing where, like for Vanessa, where they're coming from and how they're getting in touch with us. And then if Brenda or Jesse have anything, or Rochelle have anything to add?
I guess I would just say CallRail has been a really good thing, but it's also had some challenges that we've had to work through. There's been a training component. There's been just trying to figure it out a little bit. So it is, it's going to give us some really good data, but we've had to really test it out and work through some of the kinks and the issues, and why is it doing this, and those kinds of things. So it's taking us a minute to figure out, but hopefully we'll have some good data once we get it all worked through.
And Wiley, remind me, I think from what I remember, there was minimal cost to the FRCs for this because you can use your own cell phone. So there was no bulk cost because we didn't need to buy equipment, correct me?
Yes, it is fairly minimal. We do have to pay for the user accounts, and for some, it's a voice internet relay that they use to connect the calls. So we do have to pay for some of the minutes and some of the texting that we incur on that. But we don't have to pay. We can use our own cell phones. There's an application that staff can use. We can text from it. You can use your laptop or computer. So it is very versatile, especially for right now in the climate that we're in with doing a lot of things virtually. So it has really helped our staff to really meet the needs of the clients when either staff are out or clients are only able to text and they don't have minutes on their phones. So the cost is fairly minimal for us. And then I also wanted to add too that we did set up our Google businesses. So when you Google any of the family resource centers, our information comes up. We've updated all that information to reflect our new numbers and our locations. And then we are able to get data from that as well. So I don't know if you guys have Google businesses, but you can track, Google already tracks it for you, but you can track how many people are interacting with your business, searching for your company, how they're connecting with you. So if they're actually, when you search the business and you're actually using the button to call them, it'll tell you how many people interacted with you that way. How many people used their Google search to find your directions to get to your business. So we have some of that data too. So hopefully I'll make a note of that and try to share some of that with you as well at the next meeting.
And then, Rochelle, is this something that if they call into the district's main line, can the district transfer them easy to that? Or is it, sorry, you have to hang up and call this number?
They can't transfer over to that number at this point. We haven't set that up, and I don't know if that's even something that's possible to do. They have our phone numbers, but likely what is going to have to happen is they have our phone number and they will give it to a client and they'll have to call us because they're not connected at all. So whether we can do that or not, that's another thing for me to put on my list to research.
I'm just thinking ease of like people
Yeah.
that are already vulnerable, already in despair and distress.
And not having
Sorry,
to-
you have
yeah.
to now hang up with me. and
Right.
Do you have a pen handy? Probably not.
Yeah, totally agree with you. So yeah, I'll look into that too.
Thank you.
And just to add, that's been a really big help for us. I think having one main number to reach all of the resource centers and instead of having, this is one number, this is one number, this is another number, and having a flyer with a bunch of different numbers and locations and places. So being able to, I know it's a little hard for us because trying to distinguish where clients are the closest center to them, so the ease of access and transportation, but it's really been nice to have that one number so we can kind of call flow and direct them to where they need to go. So.
And Wiley, on this app, does it have the ability for you guys to chat with each other, like business function? Like if Susan and I were at two different locations, could we chat with each other, say, hey, I just got a call from so-and-so. They're going to come down there because you're closer. Here's what they're looking for.
No, there's no like chat function. It's mostly just text messaging. We're able to send those text messages. With our plan, we have the ability to, I don't know if you guys have seen like different company websites, like if you go to Home Depot and you're searching something, there's a little person that comes up on the bottom corner and they can instant message you and you can type with a live agent. We do have the ability to do that, but since we're using a district website, I'm not sure, we haven't integrated some of those ideas and trying to see what that would look like just because we don't have access to our own website. But there is some stuff like for that kind of internet chat relay, but not with kind of the aspect that you're chatting about.
Awesome. Any questions from the council?
Just to add, Brenda did say in the chat that we can leave staff notes on the calls. So everybody in our agency, all of our advocates, all of our directors can kind of go through and see a lot of everything that's going on. So it kind of helps us when we need to pass and work kind of collectively. So that does have us the ability to do different tags. It'll transcribe all of our messages. We can record anything and transcribe everything. So it does allow us to do all of that, which is a huge help to help us out with some of our note taking and kind of tracking along with where clients are at and what services we might be helping with them with.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right. With that, we'll close item 2.06 and move on to our closing items. Bring it to item 3.01, which is public comment. Comments from the public are invited at this time on topics not specifically addressed elsewhere on the agenda. Anybody who would like to make public comment? No?
There is none.
There is none. Thank you. And with that, we will announce our next meeting, which is January 19th of 2022. And with that, it is approximately 7:29, and we will adjourn our meeting.